What is up, Flyers fans? I'm one of you, as you can kind of tell. I don't know if I'm going to wear a jersey every time I do one of these, but this is my first Florida Flyer. That's what I'm calling myself now, I guess. As a resident, I've changed my license and everything. As a resident of Florida, I figured calling myself the Florida Flyer would be kind of prevalent, but still have nothing but love for my team in Philly, and hopefully get to see them play a few times this year. But I'm just going to break down basically some of the roster moves that have happened and my opinion of them. I've listened to Sons of Penn and I've listened to Broad Street Hockey Radio. Some stuff I would recommend that you guys listen to because there's some really good points, a lot of good information out there. Yes, I'm aware I'm wearing the 50th anniversary jersey. Very polarizing, but I loved it. I think it's a great jersey. It's my Gostis Bear. Love it. Feeling good about it. The first line, it looks like we're going to start the year with basically two centers on the first line. And with Claude Giroux and Sean Couturier, I don't feel good about having G at left wing. I know he's been slumping the last couple of years. He's been on a downward trend. But this year in training camp, from what I've seen from basically what's been on the internet, because I don't really have much access other than that, he looks like he's back to his old self. He looks explosive. He looks creative. He's looking for the net. He's getting in those high danger zones. But there's just some things that I feel like don't really predicate to moving him to wing right now. He was in the top 10 in the league in faceoff percentage with 55.9% last year. He was tied for fourth in the amount of faceoffs taken with Sidney Crosby. He had 977 faceoffs won, 771 faceoffs lost. That's a lot to kind of put on Sean Couturier, and I realize that they're both going to be taking offensive zone draws and defensive zone draws depending on the side. But when you split them up, when they're on the ice at the same time, you're not going to get that quality throughout your lineup. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. I took down Coots' numbers as well, and his percentage was just a tick below G's at 55.1%, but he only played 66 games. He only averages 70 games in his 6 professional seasons, and last season was his first ever season over 50% in the faceoff dot. And he's not facing off against the best guys. He's not going against Patrice Bergeron. He's not going against Ryan Getzlaf. All those guys are going against G. So he should be where he's at, maybe a little higher in my opinion. But I don't like the look of your number one center of last year, a guy who can still hack it, a guy that can still play the position, being your starting left winger this year. Not to mention he's on his off wing technically, so he's taking everything on the backhand. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I would switch him and Jake. I know Jake likes the right side, but as a left-handed shot going forward, I think it just benefits the team more. From what it looks like, if we are to believe Dave Hackstall and what he said last interview he really did right before the preseason game, he talked about how that game was a dress rehearsal for what we're going to see in San Jose, which, if I get this video out in time, will be tonight, Wednesday. I'm filming it Tuesday, but hopefully I'll have it up Wednesday and Wednesday night, 10:30. You best believe I'm going to be watching my Flyers. But from what it looked like, Andrew McDonald and Brandon Manning are going to be in this rotation for defense, and I can't help but laugh. I really can't, because the quality of defense is lacking in those two. And I realize that because they're both rookies, and then you add on the fact that Robert Haig is also going to be in the lineup, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like something that will be successful. But look at Toronto last year. I know a lot of their rookies were on offense, but it's just not. You got to give them a chance to grow. And I feel like with this team, if we go heavy rookie early, it's a high upside team. Yes, you're going to lose some battles. Yes, you're going to lose some pucks that you shouldn't. Yes, they're going to make mistakes and probably cost you a game or two. But ultimately, isn't them getting that experience now, when we're not expected to be Stanley Cup contenders, better than next year when we throw Travis Sanheim in and we're like, hey, we need you to run the power play too. We know this is your first season and all, but figure it out. So I know stats aren't everything. I'm not a complete stat guy. I don't really read into Corsi and all that good stuff, but just some basic stats that kind of open my eyes a little bit. Andrew McDonald in his Quebec Major Junior Hockey League career, scored a total of 46 and 58 points during the regular season, with 13 and 6 points in the playoffs. He's 6'1", 200-ish pounds, and he's never had more than 30 points in a single NHL season. And I know he's got the consistency. I know people like him because of that. He blocks shots. He's a guy, I mean, shit. Let's be real. He got voted by the players to be an assistant captain this season, and that infuriates me on a whole nother level. But that is neither here nor there at this point. And A means nothing to me. He should be playing in the AHL. Whereas on the other hand, Sam Morin, 6'6", 220-ish, played on multiple international Canada teams, which is very, very, very important as far as I'm concerned, because that means that he was good enough in his age bracket to play for his country. Andrew McDonald never did that. Not one time did he do that. Maybe he went into a camp. I don't know. I didn't dive that deep. But Sam Morin has played for Canada on the international level. He's won medals with Canada. There's just a higher pedigree of player. And for me, that's what the Flyers have to be looking for this year. This year, we're not going to win a Stanley Cup this year. By some stroke of luck, if Pittsburgh, Washington, Dallas, Nashville, if they all get struck by lightning and magically disappear, then maybe, as long as Columbus isn't too formidable, maybe it could happen, I guess, technically. But I wouldn't put money on it. As a Flyers fan, as someone who's been a diehard Flyers fan since I was born, it's just not a reasonable expectation. But why wouldn't you give the kids time? Let them take this season. If we don't make the playoffs this year, we don't make the playoffs this year. It sucks, but move on. We're getting ready for the saga, the era of Carter Hart in the next couple of years. He's going to come up. Felix Sandstrom's going to be ready in 2 years. Brian Elliott and Nuvi's deal are both done in 2 years. So why waste time grooming the defense that isn't going to be here? Andrew McDonald's not going to be here in 2 years. Brandon Manning might not be here next year. He's the perfect seventh defenseman in my mind, just from a personal standpoint. But getting back to Sam Morin, 6'6", international. He's played in international teams constantly. He's a shutdown defenseman. He's a stay-at-home defenseman. He does what Andrew McDonald wants to do. He has that wide wingspan, pushes play to the outside, and it just, his style fits with what he wants to do. He's not going to light up the scoreboard. He's not going to score 20 points. As a matter of fact, he's never scored 20 points in the regular season in his AHL career. So he's not a guy that's going to put up massive points. But one of the things that I think this team is lacking, and maybe it's just an old school mentality, we need a guy that can go out and cut his teeth against a Ryan Reeves or against some tough guy that decides he's going to take a run at Travis Konecny, or he's going to take a run at Ivan Provorov or something like that, because that is still a part of this game. There's still aggression and frustration in this game, and nobody wants to mess with Sam Morin. He's 6'6", 6'7", depending on where you get your information from, and he's over 200 pounds. He will murder you. That's a real thing. He will literally kill you. And there's so many intangibles there that Andrew McDonald doesn't give you. You know what he is at this point. You do not know what Sam Morin can be. So why not give him the opportunity to show himself? And the other end of that spectrum, Travis Sanheim, 6'4", also a big boy, almost 200 pounds. His WHL scoring stats, 29 points, 65 points, 68 points. His playoff points, 2 points, 18 and 6. But he's also played 67, 67, and 52 games in all three of those seasons. 52 games, he scored 68 points, and then another 6 in the playoffs. The guy knows how to score. And on a team that was starved for 5-on-5 scoring last year, on a team that could not generate any kind of offense and insisted on point play, insisted on sending the puck back to the defenseman to get the shot and goal. For a guy, Andrew McDonald, that's never scored more than 30 points in a season, why is he on your defense? Why would you have a Brandon Manning back there when you can have a Travis Sanheim and you can have a Sam Morin? A Sam Morin is Brandon Manning on steroids. Again, you know what Brandon Manning is. He's not going to magically surprise you. I think at the beginning of the year last year, he was probably one of our best defensemen. And that's really saying something. I really do. I feel like for the first 10, 15 games, he might have been one of the best defensemen on that back line. But as the season progressed, you really saw what Brandon Manning was, and that's not a stud defenseman. He's not someone you can build a franchise around. Where get these guys in. Let Robert Haig be Robert Haig. Let Sam Morin and Travis Sanheim grow. Let them make those mistakes like Ivan Provorov did last year. It's not going to hurt. It lowers the expectation slightly. Whereas if you play your veterans like it seems like the Flyers are willing to do and are wanting to do, yes, you might get 2 or 3 more wins than you would have otherwise. But the ceiling isn't as high. Your floor is higher, of course, but your ceiling isn't as high. And if you're not willing to risk it for the biscuit, basically at this point, Ron Hextall, you've drafted these guys, you've cultivated these guys. Why don't you want these guys to play? And that's one of the things that's just infuriating to me is they say that, the rookies have to come in and they have to beat out a veteran. If they're going to be on the team, they have to demolish, they have to crush it and set a precedent that, they're better than whoever is available on this team. Travis Sanheim and Sam Morin have done that. Brandon Manning hasn't even had a full training camp, and we're willing to throw him out on the third pair with Radko Gudas. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I think it's bad coaching. I think it's bad management. I know we're currently carrying 8 defensemen, but why aren't these guys on the team? Why wouldn't you have these guys on the team? Again, higher ceiling, lower floor. Does that suck? Yeah. If we have a bad year this year, we have a bad year this year. But at least we went all in on the guys that we've been waiting for the last 4 years. Sam Morin's been in the AHL for 2 years now, 3 years now. He was drafted a couple years ago. Like, we're ready. We're ready for this rookie resurgence. And again, Toronto didn't get off to the best of starts last year, and they finished so strong because everybody figured out how to gel at the right time. Why not try to follow that blueprint? Connor McDavid put the Edmonton Oilers, also a very young team, on his back. And granted, he's a generational talent. Nolan Patrick will not be that, as much as it hurts me to say, because I'm super excited for Nolan Patrick. He's not going to be that talent, but I just feel like we're hurting the team. I feel like we're hurting the team by playing veterans instead of letting these rookies really show us what they have. Speaking of rookies not getting to see, show what they have, Oscar Lindblom, a guy I've actually been pretty high on recently. For the last couple of years when he got drafted, I was very excited when they picked him up because in his draft year, he scored 33 points in 43 games in his under 20 division in Sweden. He also got the under 17 gold medal with Sweden, and he was the scoring leader in that tournament. He shoots left. He's 6'2", almost 200 pounds. He's represented Sweden in every international thing he could without, obviously, like Olympic play or upper professional play, because those guys are on another level than a teenager, a low 20s guy. And he plays in all situations. Last season, especially with his team, he played a lot on the PK, he played a lot on the power play. He was a 5-on-5 guru. And the guy that he basically got replaced by was Dale Weiss. Oh, Dale Weiss. He is also 6'2", 202 pounds. He shoots right-handed, which is something I think this team is craving because we don't really have a lot of differentiation as far as right-handed shot to left-handed shot. But he is also someone who's never scored more than 30 points in a season. And literally on the Flyers website, as I was doing research today, they call him a role player. He is a role player through and through, and that's all Dale Weiss is. I understand he's under contract. I get that he's a gritty guy and he provides this or that or the other, whatever. He does not deserve to be on this team. I don't know who Travis Konecny upset to end up on the third line with Valtteri Filppula and Dale Weiss, but I feel bad for the kid. I would much rather Oscar Lindblom be on that left wing, and that third line then becomes a viable, actual offensive line. It could be something that's defensively responsible, which Oscar and Filppula both excel at, and Konecny got better at towards the end of last year after Hackstall made him sit in timeout, basically. But that could be a viable 4 scoring lines, if you want to talk about Lawton, Lear, and, I have it here, Raffle. Those are four lines that can put the puck in the net, that can generate offense, that can play good defense. It doesn't make sense to me why Dale Weiss is on this team. Very much like it doesn't make sense to me why Andrew McDonald and Brandon Manning are on this team, because the numbers don't match up. Andrew McDonald is backpedaling into every offensive zone. Brandon Manning looks for the big hit, and he's that guy. He's definitely that glue, heart and soul guy, and I respect that, and I like what Brandon Manning brings. And if he plays 25 to 30 games a year, I'm okay with it. If he's that jump-in guy, he's that sub-in guy, that seventh defenseman that spends most of his time in the press box, fine with it. Great. Brandon Manning comes in, provides a jolt of energy. He broke Connor McDavid's collarbone. I guess that's a thing that he did that one time and was kind of cool, but just not an everyday defenseman. They're not everyday defensemen. And if you want your fans to be happy, if you want to really show that you mean this thing with the kids and that you're willing to let them grow and develop, why not let them play? That's my thing. They've been telling us for years, and since Hexie got in charge, we're going to develop the kids. We're going to go at our speed, our pace. We want to be able to play them the right way. Well, then play them the right way. I understand Travis Sanheim going back with Phil Myers in Lehigh Valley, or Sam Moran going with Phil Myers in Lehigh Valley. That's only going to add to that team and make that team better and gives them another year to develop. But at what point are they done developing in the AHL? And I don't think Travis Sanheim's necessarily done in the AHL. He's only had 1 year, but he scored over 40 points. That season, he got off to a horrible start. He was playing terribly, and he still managed to score over 40 points that season. You just can't, again, for a team that was starved for offense, one of the worst offensive teams in the league, the Flyers, we're just going to send a guy that can score 40 points in the AHL, and maybe it's not in the NHL. Maybe he doesn't do that in the NHL. Ivan Provorov scored 30 points last year. But how can you just send that offense away? He scored 2 beauties against Henrik Lundqvist, who is arguably one of the best goalies of my generation. He's like Mike Richter on steroids. It's disgusting. I don't understand, and I'm frustrated, but that's just how I feel. And I'm going to really quick go over what I would do if I was in charge, if I was the coach or the GM, or ideally both. My starting lines, my forward lines would be Drew in the middle with Jake and Lindblom. And I understand putting a rookie on the left wing of the first line is a lot of pressure, but again, he's defensively sound and he played at the top level in Sweden, which is the 3rd or 4th best league in the world, depending on who you're talking to. Some people put the AHL above it. A lot of people put the AHL below it. I think it's 3rd. I think it goes NHL, KHL, SHL, AHL. So he played in the 3rd best league in the world and was called the best forward in that league last year. I don't know if the guy has much to prove outside of the NHL. I really don't think he does. I would also do, again, Nolan Patrick, Wayne Simmons, Jordan Wheel. Super excited about that line. Patrick and Wheel look like they've meshed, they've gelled well, they know where each other is, and Simmons will always put the puck in the net. He's always around the net. Not to mention, if somebody takes a run at Nolan, they're going to have to deal with Wayne, and nobody wants that. Like, even us. We don't want him in the box because he punched some guy in the face, but it is kind of awesome. Third line, Couturier, Filppula, Konecny, moving Filppula onto a wing, because, again, when you have Coots on that first line, last year was the first year he was over 50% in the face-off dot. Filppula's face-off percentage was 47%. Not strong. He was actually 2 or 3 spots ahead of former Flyer Sam Gagner, who got 4th line minutes in Columbus. And this is a man that we're counting to start and star on our 3rd line with one of our offensive dynamos, Travis Konecny, and bum and drag Dale Weiss. And my final line that I have prepared is exactly the same as it is. Scott Lawton, Taylor Lear, Michael Raffel. I think it's a great line. I'm excited. I'm excited to move on from Chris Vandevelde, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. I'm excited to move on from thank you, Las Vegas Golden Knights. Whatever it took for you to take him, thank you so much. I was over the Bellemare experiment, and I've gotten to talk to family members and stuff about it. And he's a good penalty killer. No, he's not. He's not good at anything. He's fairly good skater, good gel guy, good team player, was willing to go punch some face when he needed to, but not a strong NHLer. Not a strong NHLer by any stretch of the imagination. My defensive pairings, Ivan Provorov, Radko Gudas, Shane Gostisbehere, Robert Haig. I think it's a great pairing. And maybe the surprise pairing, maybe people don't like this or won't like this, but Sam Morin and Travis Sanheim are my third pairing because they've played together in Lehigh Valley. They understand how each other plays, and they can learn together. Sanheim is always going to be that guy that jumps up on the rush. Morin is always going to be that guy that kind of hangs back a little bit. Their styles just suit each other so well, and you put them together in Lehigh Valley. It literally happened last year. They played most of, if not all of the year together last year. Why wouldn't you capitalize on that? It just, again, management coaching confused me with how they're telling us things and then doing other things. It's frustrating. And my starting goalie is Brian Elliott, even though he shat the bed against the Islanders, and Michael Neuvirth is our backup. But that's all I really have for this episode. I also realized that Andrew McDonald will not be sent down because earlier today he was named the alternate captain as voted on by the players, as was Valtteri Filppula, a guy who's been here for 3 months-ish, maybe. Hasn't really been on the team very long. Voted an assistant captain or an alternate captain. So it's just, there's frustration. I feel frustration. But we will see what happens tonight in San Jose. I want to thank you guys for listening to me rant and ramble. And if you guys have any comments, let me know. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk about hockey. I'm a big hockey fan, so anything at all you guys want to talk about. Thank you guys very much, and I will see you guys hopefully next week.